What's up, everybody, and welcome to, yes, it is that time of the year. Just around a month and a half, 2 months ago, a new changelog came out, and guess what? Now we got another one. And with me, as always, is the ever-so-fabulous Luminous Inverse. How you feeling today, man?
I am doing great. It's quite late here, but changelog's out, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's
fully
later.
awake.
It's later for me. It's later for me.
All right, you want a cookie for doing this or what?
Yo, want to fight about it? I'll take you down, dude.
All right, as always, these changelogs are this particular one is fairly short compared to the ones that we did before. But you know how we could kind of get sidetracked for these ones. So a full disclaimer ahead.
That's never happened.
A full disclaimer ahead. There might be some crazy dairy craft. We might be wrong, but we'll try our best to kind of analyze this. Again, we haven't played this patch particularly yet. It's just kind of what we see on a eyes base level. Does that make sense? Also, for editing purposes, just please have the Play.Dota changelog up on your screen as we're talking about it. The link is in the description box below, so B-Balling don't have to type every single changelog on this video, so we can save him some time.
Yep, and as always, thanks to Luminous and thanks to Dice for coming out with a new patch. If you want to get another take, I'm sure they're going to talk about on Talk Dota, maybe MAD, M-A-A-D, the new podcast that is pretty awesome. Shouts to Blitz.
We fully recommend that podcast. It's really good.
And Purge. So, yeah. So you have a lot of different sources, but as always, since it's a shorter changelog, I might as well go over a change. So AA, the mana cost has been rescaled. Honestly,
Chilling Touch.
Yeah, Chilling Touch mana cost has been rescaled. Does it honestly make too big a difference? AA is so much of a niche pick. Like the Southeast Asians, the Philippines love him to death. But does this change anything? I think not.
I don't think it changed the hero in terms of metagame, but in terms of like playing him in pubs, as you know, I'm trying to work on an AA guy right now, and I've been really experimenting with Chilling Touch as a spell, as a secondary spell in lane combinations. And I can tell you for sure, in like a AA Nyx lane, AA Lifestealer, or AA Sven lane, Chilling Touch is the absolutely bonkers. Like, it just gives you so much damage. It's not even funny how much damage.
Or AA Drow. That is so ridiculous.
Drow, like it's absolutely a terror in terms of how much damage you actually do. And I fully recommend Chilling Touch in selected lane choices. So having the mana cost rescale, I mean, it's 140 used to be really high, and to be honest, 110 is still fairly high in terms of supporting that spell. But it's a buff, and again, it's not going to affect the competitive metagame, but definitely makes this hero a lot more fun to play, a lot easier to play in lane. So yeah, I'm all for this change.
Yeah, I agree with you. Won't change his status in the competitive scene. He's still going to be a niche pick in certain regions, but definitely encourages you to try out Chilling Touch. Hey, it might not be so bad. Batrider. Sorry?
Fully thumbs up on trying that out. It's insane as a spell, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Batrider. Of all the nerfs that could have happened to Batrider, I think I like this one the most. You know... Don't really have much more to say. Can't attack while using Flaming Lasso. It hurts his early game enough. He's still ridiculous initiator. He's still ridiculous at lane control. But once he grabs you in a solo kink attempt, he can't really kill you as easily. He can still stack napalms. But of all the nerfs that could happen to Batrider, I think this is probably the best option as a Batrider enthusiast. And I don't think this will change his place in competitive Dota. I think he'll still be first pick material.
Yeah, his killing power and laning power is still there with the napalm. I mean, it is a significant, sizable cut in terms of his damage output during the Flaming Lasso because generally very good in Batrider play in a 1v1 situation. They'll Flame Lasso you, drag you back a little bit, napalm attack, drag you back a little bit, napalm attack, and animation cancel throughout between. You got to keep in mind that with a high stack of napalm, you're losing roughly 80 to 100 like right-click damage per hit. Is that too big? Especially with a couple of, like 6-7 napalm stacks.
Yeah, but keep in mind your Firefly damage goes up as well.
Sure. Of course, that still applies, but you are losing quite a bit of damage. When I first saw this change, I thought it was a very elegant kind of fix, and as you will. It cuts down Batrider's early game killing power in terms of 1v1, but he still is a insane initiator in late game situations. Blink in, drag out one, the dragging +4 staff and all that stuff doesn't change. So in terms of late game initiation, his power is still there, but cuts down his early game, and I think that's really the right angle to attack Batrider with.
So
Do you think this affects the metagame change?
I think he'll still be first pick. He's still so versatile in how he can lane, off lane, jungle, mid lane. He can still lane control like crazy. He can still initiate. This doesn't really change any of that. The only problem is that it affects his early killing potential a bit, like we mentioned. I don't think it'll affect his place in the Dota 2 scene. He'll still be a very high tier pick. He might not be first ban, but he'll still be first round picks.
I mean, best TA counter, really. So yeah, I think we'll see her or him, sorry, for quite a bit.
Yep. All right. Moving along. Bounty Hunter. Track no longer reduces armor. Track. Bounty Hunter has. Track is pretty ridiculous on how much gold it gives. The armor rework, I'm not too sure how it feels. It doesn't really change track, but it helps. I think it does enough for Bounty Hunter because teams are starting to find ways to work around Bounty Hunter now. So I'm honestly not too sure how I feel about this change, but track as it was so ridiculous as a spell.
Yeah, I mean, the real power of track is still here. The fact that it gives your team gold as you get kills, the fact that it gives your team a movement bonus, that's like the real OP parts to me for the track is. But it does actually kind of cuts down on Bounty Hunter and his team's killing power quite a bit. You got to keep in mind that when you crit out Janata, that's what, 500, 600 damage if you have the right attack damage item. And a -5 armor, or what used to be a -5 armor on a level 3 track, really helps you kind of cut down support for free kills basically in pub games. And in high level games, I mean, there is a fair number of physical carries. You know, you could insert your physical carry here, and losing 5 armor is quite relevant. I mean, basically your entire enemy team has a free Vlad in terms of armor bonus, if you want to think of it like that. So it's a sizable nerf, again, but people, when they want Bounty, they want him for the long lane, they want him for the track movement and go bonus. Armor is kind of like the no factor. There's a very unnoticeable change in a sense, but a nerf nonetheless.
Does this change his status?
No. Again, they want him for the long lane. Like, the reason they want him is not for the -5 armor, but it helps.
Yep, I agree with you. Meanwhile, moving on, Centaur, movement speed reduced, Double Edge no longer has a mini stun, so can't cancel TPs, can't cancel channeling spells, and Stampede now applies a 100% slow instead of a stun. So that means, you know, if your ally's getting ganked across the map by a Pudge Dismember, if you activate Stampede, Dismember won't just automatically break. Black Hole won't automatically break. It's pretty cool. Units can't be slow by 100 move speed as usual. This means, I think the biggest problem with Centaur, in my honest opinion, wasn't really... I mean, Stampede is ridiculous, Double Edge AoE is strong, but I always found his strength growth 3.8 to be too good.
And you think they're not attacking that particularly enough in that sense? I mean, I agree with you. They replaced Greater Fortitude, or Great Fortitude, so they kind of have to give him the strength that way. I think this is a huge nerf.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge nerf. I was just trying to decide if nerfing strength growth or nerfing all these things would have made a bigger difference. I think nerfing all these
I would take a weaker HP Centaur to retain my stunning Stampede. No questions asked.
I agree, because now you can blink out and stuff like that.
The big thing that I'm glad you brought up is the fact that, you know, your teammates are getting owned by a Pudge, and you press a button and they're not getting owned by the Pudge anymore, and you know, just happen to so get max movement speed and run the hell out. And honestly, Pudge is a kind of a silly one corner case example, but think of how many times that, you know, a melee carry jumps on you, Void for example, and he just start right clicking you. Hey, Centaur gets you out of there, and with the immediate stun. Now, I mean, you know, it's still a max movement speed. It could still get you out of there, but offensively, Stampede without the stun is a lot weaker. I mean, think of the scenario where your Centaur press ultimate and the entire team bum rushes you. There's little to nothing that you can do. You can hex it, it still stuns you. But now, because of the slow, you can still use your abilities like whether it's blocking bar, whether it's a blink away, whether to cast your own stuns, whatever the case might be. The initiation power of Centaur has been so much weaker. So I think this is a good change, because used to be, it's OP. So I don't mind playing against Centaur as much now.
I think when he eventually gets introduced and counted to the pick pool, he'll still be a pickup, but this definitely affects, like we said, how much dominance he has in terms of global presence and all of that. And it'll be interesting to see if the slow duration is the same as the stun duration. I imagine it is the same. And we'll see if the slow duration actually affects attack speed as well. Because like you said, if Void's going to town on you, he'll still probably be hitting you with the same amount of attack speed, rather than, 100% slow and decrease of attack speed.
The changelog does not say whether it's just movement speed slow or attack speed slow. If it's both, then it's again it's very, very powerful. To put it in perspective, a 70% slow is a life stealer open wounds. A 50% slow is Venomancer Gale. So it's a very, very powerful slow. But again, it's not a stun. So.
Yep. Moving on to Clockwerk, his agility growth increased by 0.9. As a Clockwerk player, one of my biggest gripes with Clockwerk is that his armor is just too low, and this will help. It won't really help.
1.1.
Oh, 1.1. Dang, math teacher owning it up.
The math teacher and me gotta point that one out. I'm sorry, people.
I think that's the only time you've ever corrected me at math. Anyway, the 1.1 agility will definitely help out his armor, and I'm pretty excited for this because Clock already a situational pick up in the Chinese scene, and hopefully we'll see more Clockwerk play. He's a very aggressive hero. He can definitely join team fights all across the map, so having his armor increase is a good step, in my opinion.
I actually think it's a pretty decent buff. You got to keep in mind what items that Clock actually get. I mean, he gets things like Vanguard, drums perhaps, or a hood and a pipe. So very HP-oriented items, or magically immunity items, magically resistance items, and never really too much in armor. So it's free effective HP when you're stacking with so much of HP item already. Like, it makes him a very, very kind of
and he can attack faster when he's in the cog. When he's in the cog. Yo, every time I'm in a cog with somebody, I hit somebody like every 3 seconds.
Fair, right? You get an extra hit in once in a while. But yeah, I mean, it makes him a good tank. But again, people pick him for the hook. People pick him for his dual ability to cancel BKB. And it does help. So I'm not sure whether it will bring him to the forefront of the metagame. I doubt it. But, when he's picked, he's going to be a little bit more effective as a hero. And, as a Clock fan myself, I'm glad to see kind of a buff on him.
Yep, I agree. I think he'll be picked more, but again, he fits in certain lineups as a long lane solo. Dazzle cast range increased at the early levels. As a Dazzle player myself, I love this because it's always heartbreaking to see your teammates yell at you for saying, why no grave when you have level 1 grave? Because you have to max all your other abilities, and you just say, it's 40 rage, dude. Like, what else do you want me to do? I have to walk up right next to you, pretty much. So...
Yep. To put it in perspective, 550 range is a little bit longer than a magic missile from Vengeful Spirit, or a little bit shorter than a swap. So, if you know that range by heart, it's around there.
But it doesn't affect. It doesn't change anything about Dazzle's effectiveness in the competitive scene. He won't be picked because of this. It'll just help out in pubs.
Right, it does. And like you brought out earlier, like his two other spells are just so good. Like, you want to take a lot of points into it. So very frequently you'll be a level 9, 10. Maybe even 11, just with 1 point to grave, because you're putting your points in the other one. So it's a very, very good, powerful nerf. The way that it now scales. So yeah, cool beans.
Yep. Anyway, moving on to Doom. Scorch Earth now affects units you control, and he gets an armor. Woohoo! So this is only good for Necrobook Doom. Other than that, I can't really see any benefit from this. This won't change anything about Doom.
Well, real fast. Just from I'm going to read the exact text out. Scorch Earth now also affects other units you control. Does that mean that as those units stand on your fire, they get extra movement speed?
Yep.
Or regen?
Yep.
Or does that mean they all spawn their own fire and you get like a fucking mobile army of
No,
Doom
I think
minions?
it's on your fire.
Okay.
I mean, we're just guessing. It just came out.
We were thinking about the Necro Doom build. It's pretty awesome. You're saying that it doesn't affect too much. I would urge you guys that are listening in to scroll all the way down to the changelog, and I'm not even kidding when as I say this. The buff to Harpy's chain lightning mana cost is gonna be in Doom play. I'm not even trolling, because Harpy Lightning Storm or Chain Lightning does 140 damage for 50 mana. You guys even know what that means? It has what, like a 9-second cooldown as well. To put it into perspective, I do believe Zeus's.
So what are you gonna do? You're gonna helm the Dominator Harpy and just have her follow you around?
No, not helm the Dominator. You devour Harpy.
Yeah, but that doesn't I mean, like, you could do that before because it's inside of you. You cast it yourself. It's
No,
not...
the mana cost is a lot lower now.
Yeah, but how does that affect Scorched Earth? It doesn't affect...
It doesn't, no, it doesn't. Well, we're talking about Doom overall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is... Well, I kind of have to talk about Harpy Storm because
Okay.
this is a Doom creep that he could eat. But Zeus Arc Lightning, I think it was at 65 mana for, you know, a lot less than 140 damage. Now you devour him, or the Harpy Storm, you are actually, you know, popping 140. I was actually just seeing all these changes. I was thinking of a Doom build involving Arcane Boots, Necro Books, or maybe even skip the Arcane Boots, considering Necro Book gives you a lot of intelligence, and just go Doom, Necro, and Harpy nuke build with level def and shit. Like, again, I'm dare crafting all the way out there, and this is not a competitive.
And then you die because you have 1 armor.
You do have that extra armor now, but this is a crazy fun puppy to try. So that's just me dare.
It's opening up more options. I think this patch is more focused on opening up other options. I think.
Yeah, I mean, just on the general kind of flavor of this patch, it's not supposed to be like a big metagame change like the previous ones were. It's more supposed to be a little bit more like roughing out the edges and
encourage more creativity.
Yep.
Drow Ranger, True Shot Aura now only affects non-hero units within 900 range of Drow, so no more global pushing. When Drow respawn, she's on the other side of the map, but your other lanes are being pushed. This is a good... This is very nice nerf. Does this make Drow useless, though? Does it make her back into old Drow status?
She lost a lot of utility, in a sense. Like, extra utility. I'm a little bit happy, or I'm very happy to see a nerf on that, because it feels like having an extra tinker on the enemy side, and your creep wave is never ever gonna push by itself when the old Drow Ranger aura. But in a sense, I felt like the old Drow Ranger aura, or like the one that is nerfed, is so unique. There's nothing else in the particular game that actually globally buffs your creep. I feel like it's something that could
Maybe
be
there was a reason
explored.
for that. Maybe there was a reason for that. That's
I mean, pushing. Yeah, there should be a reason for that. I just feel it's such a unique space that it should be explored a little bit more. Perhaps it shouldn't be on Drow Ranger as a hero. Perhaps they should be on a purchasable buff. Again, I'm throwing random stuff out there, but it's something so unique, and I'm sad to see that go. But yeah, Drow's still freaking OP as a damage dealing source, and she will still remain that way. But losing the utility on the creeps, not the biggest thing, to be honest.
Yeah, but it'll definitely tone down some of that 61%. I don't think Drow will be introduced into CM anytime soon until they fix all the aura stuff.
Maybe she's going to introduce right as this patch. I don't know.
Maybe. We're not psychics. But shouts to Luminous last patch, who managed to get like most of the predictions right on. Anyway.
That's what they pay you big bucks for.
Yeah, they pay you nothing for it. Anyway.
Nothing for it, yeah.
Earthshaker, I don't really think I need to go over these changes. They're all small buffs, but it doesn't affect Earthshaker's playability. What do you think?
Yeah, it's small. Hey, it makes the carry Earthshaker feel a little bit more enticing.
Opening up other options. And since you don't want to go too long, we're just gonna skip over it. You can read it yourself. I don't honestly think it's worth talking about. Enchantress, 110 max attack speed reduction. Cool.
From Untouchable.
Cool. I don't know how I feel. I don't play Enchantress.
Yeah, I want to pick your brain on this one. Untouchable still remains a very useless spell to skill on most cases, even with the buff. I don't even know what the buff is supposed to be about. So,
yeah.
But
Enchantress Soul Roche, like early on, I don't know.
No damage. No damage. Yeah. Okay, I wanna ask your opinion on this. So, Untouchable makes creep, attacks like idiots when they try to attack you. What if they made Untouchable also slow tower attacks? Maybe not 110, because that would be extremely ridiculous, but maybe like half of that,
So 55 would still be ridiculous. Like maybe like 30% or something like that. Just to
put it in perspective, Liquid Fire from Twin Head, I think it's 50.
I think that might make Enchantress too good of a pusher, because she already gets a lot of creeps.
Only when the tower attacks you.
Yeah, but you'd always make the tower attack you. You'd have to you'd maybe get 2 points in enchant or 1 point in enchant, max out Untouchable and healing, because that would be ridiculously good at pushing.
I mean, her early game pushes are already insane. and that's where she truly shines, right?
Hmm.
We're talking about like the level 3, 4, 5 range where she grabs an army of creeps and runs at you. I mean, a level 12 Enchantress pushing, is that really a big thing?
Mm,
Again, that's not what the changelog's saying. This is, again, me theory crafting, thinking outside the box. So maybe the viewers at home, put in the comment below what you guys think about some of the crazier things that we're saying. We'll be more than happy to read it and, let you guys know and stuff like that too.
yeah, I think it would be too good in order for that to happen, but, differing opinions, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah.
Alright, Jakiro, Ice Path damage, so that it scales up to 100 at max, starts out very low. This was very necessary, as Jakiro is the best support in the game. But Ice Path is still a ridiculously good spell.
Really good.
Yeah, so, necessary nerf. Good job. Thumbs up by me.
Yep. Same here.
He's still gonna get picked a lot.
I mean, he's gonna help his carry a little bit less in terms of getting those consequential kills, but you want him for the crowd control. He still gets the crowd control.
Yep. Lycan base int increased to 17, so increased by 2. Spirit Wolf's armor increased by 1, so now you can jungle a bit better. Lycan, I think as a hero, is being completely forgotten by competitive scene because he's still ridiculously powerful once he gets his farm. It's just trickier to get that farm. So
we've seen teams actually lane the Lycans in pro games, so...
Yeah, I still think he's ridiculously powerful once he gets the farm. He still pushes ridiculously fast.
Yep.
But the armor increase helps out the jungle a bit more, I suppose.
I think it's just a really sad thing that, in the old Lycan patch, people pick Lycan in pubs and be like, yeah, that was like the anti-mage of the days, right? You pick, like, that's a Lycan picker right there. Nowadays, people random Lycan, they random Lycan, and they repick it. Like, that's kind of the day and night difference.
But Lycan's still good. Like,
he's so good, but people random Lycan, but like, oh, I gotta jungle this, or else how would you ever play a lane Lycan? People don't think about the lane Lycan. Well, this gives the jungle Lycan, again, a little bit more room to jungle. But to be honest, next time you get Lycan in a game, try to lane it. Just grab a standard Lycan CM lane or Lycan Venge lane. He's a very, very fine laner, especially with attack. The wolves can actually do a decent amount of attacking in lane, so,
Yeah, this does open up the option if a pro team needs another jungler. Lycan could fill the role a bit.
Sure.
But he'll still probably be a situational pick for the competitive scene.
Right. Doesn't change too much.
Yeah, I personally find Lycan games pretty exciting because he makes games just, run around in circles.
Right. I mean,
Just
he makes team fights a little bit, running back and forth. There's a lot of tower sieging, which is always, fun to see. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Alright, Magnus. This is the hero that everybody thought should be nerfed, as rightfully so. Best long lane, best AoE initiator. Skewer no longer affects magic immune units. Skewer cast range is rescaled so that it's not nearly as good. I know. Like, mid lane you could push from one side of the river to the other, into tower range. So dumb. Reverse polarization decrease. This is a good start, as I'm glad that he didn't go overboard with the nerfs on Skewer or on Magnus, but made some pretty significant nerfs nonetheless. I think Magnus is still pickable. I just don't know. He can't really be just throwing the offlane. He might be more of a mid lane solo now.
Yeah, remember the pre-nerf days of Magnus? We had the very nebulous question of where does Magnus actually go, right? And then he got his skewer buffed, and then the question was, answered, he is now on the long lane because...
Or mid lane, because he can just skewer into tower range.
Right, on mid lane, that's fine. Now, are we back to that same question again? Where does Magnus actually go? Skewer in terms of rescale... Yeah, the skewer cast range rescale from 600, 800, 1000, 1200. You keep in mind that you want to actually max shockwave, no matter what lane you are, because it's a great farming / harassment tool. So he is going to spend a lot of his early level, for example, with the 800 range, which is still decent. I mean, 800 is a lot, but it's not a game breaking skill by any means.
It's not hook range.
Right. So do you think? I mean, 600 range, is that enough to get him out of harm's way in a long lane? Is he still a long lane?
No, he's not.
He's not.
600's
Okay.
not
Verdict from
because
D-Bong.
before 800 was the thing, and we never saw Magnus long lane.
Sure. Yeah.
600 definitely is not enough because you can just chase it, and if he's already slowed, he'll be slowed. You can catch up. I don't think 600 is an appropriate lane. He could still mid lane very, very competently. I don't think 600 range is good enough for Magnus in the long lane.
So is Magnus dead in the pro scene?
No. He's still mid lane. He's still solid in that regard. He's still a very strong initiator. But you can't off lane, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel. This is just my predictions. How do you feel?
Again, we're back to that nebulous range of what does Magnus actually do in terms of laning. As a mid, I don't think he's unbeatable on the mid lane. We see Magnus actually handle TA very nicely with Empower and then kind of...
Everybody handles TA nicely, apparently these days.
Apparently these days, or else you're not a hero. You're not picked. So I think Magnus still has his own place in the metagame in terms of a mid, but it's a niche pick, as some would say it.
The still scary thing about Magnus is that once he gets Refresher, like, you only need to hit one hero in one of your ultimates. You only need to hit the carry because it goes through BKB. It's basically Aurora. If you hit more than that, it's pretty much gravy. If you hit 3 people, then you're going to win the teamfight. It's a 100-second cooldown. If you get Refresher, you should be able to theoretically just win the game. So he's still powerful in that regard. And that's why I don't think he will be completely unpicked. It'll affect his picking order, but he's still going to be picked.
Well, I mean, again, throwing a very big question out there. Is he going to get the Refresher orb now? You assume he's going to die a little bit more. You assume he's going to have a harder time to farm because he doesn't have a free get-out-of-jail card in terms of a 1200 range skewer. So.
Maybe you have to max skewer now instead of Shockwave. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see. It's a big question mark. It is a good nerf, though. I gotta say, it's a good nerf.
Alright, moving on to Dusa. Stone Gaze, cooldown reduced. Cool. Everybody was so concerned about, alright, Medusa's getting reworked because she's not introduced yet. And
why were they concerned? She's a perfect hero. Have you seen DSMJ on that hero?
She has her place in the game. Like, I love playing Dusa when I don't care about my team.
Shoot.
It's just like, alright, let me just farm all game. It's
just you and the creeps.
It's basically a PL who never dies. Alright, Morphling. I actually want to take this moment to look at a previous changelog.
You skip Marana.
Oh, 11 to 15 seconds. Significant.
On Moonlight Shadow. You gotta name the spells.
Dude, you said skip the spell names and go faster. So I'm trying to do that. But we're getting sidetracked.
Lazy with we don't have the changelog open. Moonlight Shadow. Duration 11 to 15, sorry.
It's significant, but it doesn't change
say insignificant, but
Marana's place. No, it's significant in pubs, so you can escape for 4 seconds longer. It doesn't affect Marana's place in the competitive scene.
Nope.
Alright, Morphling, I want to actually take a look at 675, which I think was the patch for the year.
Well, I mean, 675, Ice Frog bashed his nerf hammer right on Morphling's head like hardcore.
I want to know what Morphling's previous cast time. I think it's better than it was before now.
Cast animation used to be
0.3, so now it's 0.25.
What's that?
It used to be 0.3 at 675, now it's 0.25. So, you know, a bit better, but it doesn't really change Morphling. I mean, it's cool, I guess. So Adaptive Strike doesn't just whiff when people get into fog. You can actually cast it a bit more.
Yeah, what I've noticed a lot more these days compared to before being the, let's say TI2 days, is that you queue up on playing waveform, and let's say the enemy is like changing directions. You miss your waveform a lot more now. Of course, there's some of it due to the waveform reduced AoE of the previous nerf, but a lot of it is also in cast range. I think, or cast point. I think a lot of people really underestimate what cast point or cast animation do. As even like half a second or a full second does so much in particular team fights or tri-lanes. So it's actually a pretty sizable increase. You don't feel it, or sorry, you don't see it really on paper, but you will feel it a lot when you play the hero. So
yeah, just imagine for a second if Chaos Knight had an instant cast point.
On Chaos Bolt? Shit.
Yeah, or Reality Rift. How often does... Like, imagine, he'd be so broken. But cast point definitely makes a difference. And, unfortunately...
But he still has a problem of, like, Morph taking 1 billion mana, stats are a bit weak, and, stuff like that. So.
And he takes too long, honestly. Apparently, I guess not in European scene, because Europeans farm all day these days.
Do you think this brings him back in the metagame, in terms of
I don't know, because Morphling is one of those heroes, no matter how hard you hit him, he always manages to score his way back. Usually it's because
he's always waxing or waning. Are we going back? in terms of?
I think
Is he a fringe pick now?
He might be a fringe pick at best. I don't think teams will make it a niche pick or regularly pick him up. He might be a fringe pick at best if you want to have a bit more aggression. And, you know, I always liked watching Morphling because Waveform does so much damage. He makes kills happen in the early game compared to a lot of other carries.
Okay.
But he's just too tanky, and that's his main problem as a carry. He can't do it all. But he won't be... He'll be a fringe pick, I think.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Morphling's pick really is dependent on the rest of the metagame. He fills a very unique carry role, a tanky, kind of a very good, pushy kind of carry, like a split pusher kind of carry. And I don't think we're in that kind of metagame. This metagame, it feels like it's all about those melee carries. You know, we've seen a lot of Lifestealer, we've seen a lot of Svens, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. And Morphling doesn't really fit with the rest of the crowd right now. So maybe as we're rotating to a different patch, you know, we might see a bit more of Morphling action, but not right now, I think.
Yep. Necrolite. This is actually something that's pretty funny to me. Reaper Sight stun / delay increase from 1 to 1.5 seconds. Alright, you're stunned for longer, but your teammates have more opportunities to kill steal, and if you're not getting a kill in a teamfight with Necrolite, then you're not doing it right. So it's pretty funny to me.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I hadn't even thought about that, because when you're getting a kill with Reaper Scythe, Sadist, like, freaking give you a blowjob on your mana pool. Like,
no,
it's
how
insane.
often before the sight swings down on the hero, ending his life, how often do your teammates kill that person in the 1 second? Especially early on.
Obviously, when you're using the Reaper Scythe, that hero's practically dead already. You could have just right-clicked him, but now you're like, I got a Reaper Scythe KS. Here's a question I want to ask you. This is more of like I guess it depends on the player kind of question. How did you think of the Reaper Scythe now, where it has a delay, stun, and damage, versus the very old Reaper Scythe, where as you cast it, instant damage?
And then you're stunned for 1.5 seconds.
Right. In terms of how effective it is, right now it's a very weak... I mean, before, you see somebody black hole, if you need to cancel it, you Reaper Scythe to cancel it. Now you don't have that ability. You see somebody TPing out before, if you need to cancel it, you Reaper Scythe to cancel it. Now, again, you don't.
You can't.
At least
no, you're still
it's delayed
stunned.
1.5.
The damage just is delayed. It's all about the damage being delayed. It's not the stun delay.
The stun is instant.
The stun is instant.
My bad. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
It's all good.
Okay. It's all good. Then it's like just a strict buff. Okay.
Yeah, it's just...
Great.
It's just, you know, your team has more time to steal the kill.
I see. Okay. Alright. Cool.
Alright, moving on. Omni-Knight Purification range increased, so a bit better early on. Again, Omni is still one of those heroes who's so strong in team fights that it's odd to not see him ever. But I guess there's a reason for that. But this won't really change his place.
Yeah, it doesn't change much. I feel like most of early games, Omni-Knight's purification targets are usually on himself. Either you're running in for a heal bomb,
yeah,
or
because you're melee.
Yeah, so I don't think and of course in team fights you're already
it'll make him a bit better at range support, but the problem is then you have mana problems.
Why would you ever do Omni-Knight range support, right? Like,
well, I mean, you can stay back and pull creeps and you know, get that increased range.
I'd rather talk about Harpy Storm Doom than Omni-Knight support, but sure.
Alright, Phoenix. Okay, moving on.
Cool news. Yeah.
Phoenix is still in the game. Alright, Puck. Loser herb cooldown. Okay, doesn't make a difference.
Nope. 1 second. Cool.
Decrepify cooldown. 1 second at every level. Doesn't make a difference. Has a niche role in push strats and countering heavy casters. And this doesn't change anything.
Yep, same here.
Shadow Demon Poison. Decreased. Okay. If you level up Shadow Poison, you can spam it more. Congrats.
Still no mana to spam it.
Yep. Slark base agility increased by 6. You can last hit a bit better. You can attack a bit faster. This doesn't change.
I think it's actually pretty big.
It's cool.
Actually pretty big.
It's not big. It's cool. You can actually last hit a bit better.
Have you not get pub stomped by Slark?
I've gotten pub stomped like once. I love playing Slark. Like it's
well now you get a higher chance to get pub stomped by Slark if you never had the pleasure of you know, being on the receiving end of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, but it doesn't change anything in this comparison.
No.
Blah blah blah. Alright,
What competitive? He has no competitive.
Spectre. This is. I'm glad this was actually taken out in 6.58. I had to look it up. Haunt no longer ends when you use reality. So even if you haunt to illusion, or reality to illusion, the other illusions stay alive for the duration. It's cool because now the thing about Spectre is that she thrives on chaos. Unfortunately, she just takes too long. She has no laning presence. She's pretty much only picked if you're going all in on late game. And why pick her when you can pick up a Void or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, Void at least has early game, right? When he drops a Chrono at the lane and gets a kill, right? Yep. Exact same verdict of Spectre compared to the Morphling. It's a very kind of a patch. It depends a lot on the rest of the competitive metagame, and currently she's not really in it, especially when there's so many bursty carries that can win the game quite quick, and Spectre just simply can't catch up. But the cool thing about Haunt now is that with the new change, I always was like, oh, should I Reality Rip in? Like, especially when I have the Radiance finish, like, should I Reality in right now? I'm going to lose a lot of AoE damage. Now you could just go right in, and your Haunt is still, like, hunting that Crystal Maiden down somewhere else. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, the problem with Spectre before is that you had to worry, like, alright, if I haunt and wait the full 5 seconds like I do, so I can get the maximum amount of damage, will they teleport out? Will they escape?
Right, yeah.
So that's always a bit of a trouble, but now you have no problem. So, good pub buff. Sven. Now, Luminous and I fully agree. Before, Sven was not Imba. I thought the only thing Imba about Sven
wait,
was
Wait,
just...
I think you gotta repeat that for people that they just had a mental shock.
Sven is not Imba.
Luminous approved of that message.
The only thing I found weird about Sven is that his cleave is actually like 600 range for some reason instead of 300 range. Have you seen that picture?
No.
It's like...
Is it 600 range?
It's like 600 range. There's like a Reddit picture.
Okay.
Or something. Because it's like...
He does have a big sword.
This is true. The sword itself has 300 range, so might as well. Anyway, great cleave damage decreased. But
this
not
is
by...
percentage cleave, right?
Yeah, not too significantly. 5% at the last level. Warcry duration decreased by 1 second. I mean, these small tweaks, but... Sven's not Imba. He's just good.
I think looking at this nerf, I had a big quote-unquote nerf. I had a chuckle to me. This to me is Ice Frog saying, you guys QQing about Sven, here's a nerf for you guys. And it's not a nerf, a 5% decrease on cleave damage and a 1 second duration decrease on Warcry. Sure, he's gonna miss a kill once in a while, but Sven is still Sven. I don't think he's OP. Because he's a melee carry at the end of the day. Sure, he's bursty with BKB, he's insane. There's a lot of counter to melee carries. Beastmaster Roar's so good against it. Flaming Last so good as it. What about a Naga and Snare? There's just so many different answers. And I'm going to quote Milk, captain of EG here. People are just not trying enough shit to counter Sven. He is a very countable hero. So, I don't think he's OP. And seems like it that Ice Frog doesn't think he's OP either. So it's just a small nerf to kind of appease the crowd.
Go away. I nerfed him. Stop crying. Stop emailing me. Stop emailing me at icefrog@gmail.com.
You should email him at icefrog@gmail.com. He actually does read all the mail because I know that he replied to my mail before. So
he's never replied to any of my mails.
I'm Luminous.
So I know. I'm not important. I'm gonna cry myself to sleep now. Anyway, TA, mana cost increased pretty big. I always love playing against TA. Yeah, I always love playing against TA as a Batrider player because, you know, I just own her soul. But Refraction was too good, and this is going to help because TA doesn't really have the biggest ingrowth, doesn't really have the biggest mana pool. So this is going to help in terms of lane control, I imagine. And she might run out of Refraction mana just early on. This is a good change.
It makes those early last hits a little bit more precious, a little bit more important to get or deny away from her. But obviously, when you're getting like 8 plus a billion damage on Refraction, you're still gonna get those last hits. Especially in the later stage of the game where she's spamming traps, she's spamming multiple melts, she might actually start to have a little bit of mana issues. Because if you think about it, her mana items include a bottle and a magic wand. that's it. I mean, she still has to support Blinks. She still have to support a Mantis out late game. So she might start to have some mana issue, but with so many arcane boots running around, I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. In terms of laning, again, it's 75 to 100, which you are instead of every 3 refraction that you could have used, you could only use 2. But it's not that big again. I hope though. I hope to Ice Frog that he doesn't nerf refraction anymore, because I feel like refraction has been hit from multiple angles a little bit too much. And to be honest, there's again a lot of answer to Templar on the mid lane. We talked about Bat. We talked about even Magnus with Empower. We've seen Denny do it with Navi a couple times. So, you know.
Yeah, Quab, Darkseer, etc., etc. No Darkseer changes. Just want to note that really quick. Terrorblade, movement speed increased by 5. I can't wait for Terrorblade to come out, but he's not worth discussing at this stage. Tree, damage increased by 10. Leeching cooldown decreased by 2 seconds at all levels. Overgrowth cooldown decreased by 10 seconds. Living armor damage instances increased by 1. And living armor can now be casted. Well, that's pretty useless anyway. But yeah, Tree is. We were all about Tree at 7.5, and we got shut down.
We were all wrong. We were
all wrong. He just doesn't do damage.
Which I have to say, even Puppy and Cinderin were all about Tree, and they were wrong too.
Yeah,
so.
I remember the first day, like I had to cast a Fragmite Thor qualifier match, and both teams agreed, alright, no picking Tree. I'm not even kidding. But
I'm sure all the teams right now are not picking Tree because everybody agreed to not pick Tree, just OP hero. We are all right in the original patch, and he's getting some buff now.
Yeah. Does this change anything about Tree's place, though?
I think the actual, like, all the skills buff, like Leech Seed cooldown, Overgrowth cooldown, all that cool, like, yeah, sure, you know, that's buff, whatever. I think the actual really big buff is the 10 damage, because Treant already have insane base damage. Isn't he, like, the highest base damage in the game?
It must be, because his base attack time is 1.9.
Right. Can you imagine, like, I don't even know what it is, probably like 75, 80 or something like that. Can you imagine him on a Quelling Blade on mid lane, and then he has living armor, and then he says, come at me, bro. Like, I'm just gonna last it every motherfucking creep, and you can't do Jack Squad because I got living armor. I'm gonna relive the Tree is OP slogan, and hopefully teams are gonna pick. Honestly, I think the damage is actually insane, but that's just me.
Yeah, living armor is still really good.
It's still a good skill, but maybe, you know.
Yeah, I mean, mid lane Tree, you can use
Or
Overgrowth and
bot lane
ganks now.
protected farm Tree, whatever, you know.
Yeah, Nature's Sky is like Bounty Hunter. So hopefully we'll see more Tree. Actually, I don't know. Tree probably makes games boring because he can heal towers, so we'll see. He's more useful when you run him in pubs. Alright, Undying, I'm an Undying player. Decay damage reduced from 40, 80,
20 on all
120,
levels.
160 to 20, 60, 100, and 140. Now, this is necessary, but actually in a lot of patches, this is... You don't think it's necessary?
Okay, I think unnecessary is the wrong way to put it. I feel like Undying is one of those heroes that's like a Windrunner. That's like a Darkseer, where if you temper too much with the hero, you're destroying the hero. Undying in the current metagame, he is picked so much because of his early game dominance and his early game power. I feel like teams could figure out how to beat that. I don't know what the answer is, and certainly most teams don't know what the answer is right now because it's permaban. But I think it's okay to have a powerful early game hero and make teams deal with it, because his late game is absolutely horrid. It is absolutely horrid. And I feel like reducing decay early on might just make him a kind of a forgotten hero.
I'm gonna have to disagree.
Okay.
Decay, as it was when you max it first, which a lot of Undyings were doing these days, instead for whatever reason not maxing Tombstone, which I still think should be maxed right, but I'm not good at the game anyway. But Decay, as it was, just did so much damage and such a big AoE. And keep in mind, the 4 strength, that's around 80 or 60 to 80 HP. So it was actually like...
If you use it at full HP.
Yeah, but the low cooldown and the big AoE, if you hit 2 heroes, alright, you can get like 240 HP drained from them every 4 seconds at max levels.
I'm just saying there are ways to nerf Undying's early game without affecting his late game. If you want to nerf Decay's early game power, up his mana cost. Right? You could still cast the same Decay in late game and have enough mana support it and still make Undying a decent late game hero, or not as bad as a late game hero. By directly nerfing the early game damage of Decay, or just damage overall of Decay, you are nerfing Undying overall. Early game,
I mean, if you increase the mana cost, alright, you won't be able to cast an extra Decay. But
late game situation, that happens less, right?
That's true.
Yeah, so I feel like how I really appreciate the Batrider nerf, where it really attacked his early game without sacrificing late game power as much. I feel like this attack on Undying is just unwarranted. If you want to take away a very powerful early game hero, attack his mana cost or something like that, or approach it in a different angle. I think a direct damage nerf here is still. Obviously, it's just 20 damage. You still the +4 strength is really what it makes Undying's Decay really a powerful spell. So maybe I'm kind of overreacting.
I think you're overreacting.
But I love my Undying. Okay, I love my Undying.
No, I love Undying too. He's
a huggable zombie.
Dude, he's so awesome. You charge in, you spam buttons, and you just say, "All right, I did my job in the team fight." You don't have to think with him.
Yeah.
Venge. All right, damage on Wave of Terror increased. Cool. Moving on. Yeah. Viper, base strength increased by 3. Yes, but doesn't. Viper just too slow. Too slow.
Yeah.
285 move speed, too slow on Viper. But anymore, he'd be too good. Shadow Word cooldown decreased from 20 to 16. Now, I've been playing a lot of Warlock recently. Why is Upheaval not reworked yet? 50-second cooldown, 165-second cooldown ultimate. Why do not? No, Upheaval is garbage, and ultimate cooldown is too good.
Are you kidding me?
Upheaval is garbage. It's garbage.
I think we need to have a separate video for that, because Upheaval is like one of the most annoying spells to ever play against.
It's annoying, and then you realize, oh, 50-second cooldown, and bad range, and you can stun him.
Right, it's not meant to be a spammable spell. It's just like a one-time thing, like the rest of your spells.
Why are all his cooldowns so long?
Well, not anymore with Shadow, where it reduced to 16 seconds. Right?
Dang. Anyway, you're bad at this game, obviously.
We'll agree to disagree. In terms of Shadow Word buff on the cooldown, like the mana cost on Shadow Word is pretty sizable. So I'm not sure how many extra Shadow Word you inch out, but perhaps in a late game situation you could heal people a little bit faster in team fights. I don't think it's a big thing, or big enough thing to make Warlock a thing in the pro scene. So it's cool. 4 seconds, whatever.
Alright, moving on to Weaver. Shikuchi damage increased. The Southeast Asians still like picking Weaver in Dota 1, and in certain Dota 2 matchups he's always been very fringe picky. This might help him to remain a fringe pick as damage increase. What do you think? I think Weaver always so difficult to play against, but he just takes a bit too long to get going. Needs too many items.
And I think this might change that.
Really?
Like, I honestly think Shikuchi getting a little bit, well, maybe not in the pro game, but for example, let's think it on the pub level. In pub levels, you could actually get away with getting a lot of kills on Shikuchi. What's the cooldown on max level Shikuchi? What, 6 seconds? Something ridiculous like that? I think it's 6. You're doing a lot of damage with Shikuchi, and when you're coupling it with Gemline attack, with, let's say, Agility Treads or Medallion Courage, what have you, you're dishing out big damage, especially against like supports like Crystal Maiden or, insert squishy support here. So I think it's a real thing. Again, I'm not sure whether it's competitively viable, but when you are actually putting him when you imagine him as a backline support killer, he is very, very effective, and this helps in doing so.
Yeah, I think Weaver will still remain a niche peak. Really difficult to kill, and he'll remain that.
Yep.
And now he can do a bit more damage. Winter Wyvern played this hero in Dota 1
hero?
Recently.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, he was mad fun to play in Dota 1, so I can't wait till he gets imported, but we're not going to talk about him. Zeus strength growth increased. All these buffs to Zeus every patch. Poor Zeus.
Poor Zeus.
Poor Zeus.
Makes that long lane Zeus a little bit more viable.
Yeah, dude.
But honestly, all the buff that Zeus ever needed was the 90-second on his ultimate that one of the previous patch did, and I'm very happy for that.
Yeah.
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 You're not gonna suddenly go tank Zeus mode with zero point 0.6 strength growth, so I don't think it's a thing. But sure.
0.5.
0.5.
Oh,
I'm a math teacher.
get mathed
I'm a math
on.
teacher. Okay.
Alright, moving on to Buriza. Crit multiplier. This is the Sven nerf, basically. Crit multiplier decrease from 2.7 to 2.4. Recipe cost decreased by 200. Okay. It's an indirect. It's a good Sven nerf.
Well, it's an indirect, but it's a very direct Sven
Yeah,
nerf,
I think people just took too long to catch on how good Buriza is. But now that we're seeing Chrysalis into Buriza so much, people are starting to realize, okay, having these crits is a little bit too good.
Who actually gets Buriza? Like, can we list a bunch of heroes that do it? Like Sven, obviously.
Sven, TA, Void,
Kunkka.
Naga, if she really gets formed.
Well, calm down with the Naga. I've not seen a pro game Naga gets Buriza.
Really? Crystallis at the very least.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that's about it, right? And to be honest, the reason I asked that question, like who actually gets Buriza, a lot of late game heroes get damage-based items. Not really depends on the big number, like how much damage it actually gives you. A lot of damage item is purchased because of the extra effect. You know, I want a butterfly because it gives you more survivability, gives you more evasion. I want an MKB to attack the butterfly carries. I want, let's say, what's another big damage item? Shit, we don't have any damage items.
GG. We just got owned.
We just, like, that's it. So, I mean, that's my point. We're getting damage items, or pro gamers get damage items because the extra effects, not really because of the raw red numbers. For example, Abyssal Blade, because you want the ability to pierce through BKB. So, yeah. Sure. Losing 0.3 multiplier. That's cool.
Yeah.
It hurts Sven, but again, it's not the biggest thing.
This is true. Crystal's damage decreased by a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
I have Scotty, HP bonus, Scotty Omni Knight, new meta, as I just owned a pub just before this changelog with Scotty Omni Rush.
Now you will own it more.
Yes, it's too good, too good.
Scotty's such a bad item.
You're a bad item. I just
Remember what I just said? People get big late game items for the effects it gives you. This gives you HP and MP, which is not exactly where you want to be if you're shelling out 6k, and it gives you a frost attack, which...
Yo, you're as cold as ice, and you're willing to sacrifice our love. You don't know that song, do you?
No.
Oh my god.
Let's talk about items that do freeze, though.
Shiva's Guard, attack speed reduction increased by 25 to 30. Okay.
Did you ever think that ever is a thing? The minus attack speed thing?
I mean, you always say in the pro, oh, the 25 times, like in games when you get it, it's just like
I say it because it's something extra to say, but I don't actually believe it actually do anything. I honestly, like, in terms of ranking the importance of what Scotty gives you, you want the Scotty obviously for the armor, and then for the burst AoE damage and the slow, and then, like, a very, very at the end, it's like, you get it as a blue item, because blue item is cool, and then you say, oh yeah, it also minus attack 25 speed. 25 attack speed against a Void? Really? Really?
You're the one who says, oh, 25 attack speed, really good defensive item for only 5k gold.
Really? I say that. I don't believe it.
You say that so often in every game you've ever casted in your life, even if Shiva's not in the game.
It should be like minus 50 or something.
That would be too good. Maybe like minus 35, I think is a good enough number.
Oh, calm down, people. All right, I think that's it for Shiva's Guard, and that's gonna be it for the.
No, dude, Chain Lightning mana cost.
I talked about that with the Doom.
Yeah, it's good. Okay.
All right.
Wait, you said Chain Lightning damage was increased. I thought. No, I'm just.
The Chain Lightning was 140. The mana cost I think increased, so you could cast it more. Yeah.
Okay, so just overall on this patch, what are your thoughts?
It's not meant to be a big meta game patch, so we're not going to see any big heroes coming out. It's meant to rough out the edges. The Sven, the quote-unquote Sven nerfs. The Magnus nerf, very, very well deserved. The Centaur nerf, well deserved. And there's some like small buffs here and there that I'm very happy about. Things like Weaver buff, Ancient Apparition, Chilling Touch buff. I'm pretty happy about most of these. A little bit sad to see the Bounty Hunter track getting a little bit weaker, but Yeah, it's a patch. Not exactly the best patch ever, but it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is rough out the
Actually,
edges.
I wanted to talk to you about one more thing.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on the frequency of these patches lately? Because before we got patches like once every 6 months, once every 8 months. Now they're coming a bit more regularly, like once every 2 months. I don't expect the next patch to be out for the next 5 months, just because I think this patch balances it in such a way that it's good. But what are your thoughts on frequent patches?
I think well, Ice Frog always does a patch on Christmas or around the holiday season,
That's
so
true.
I think this extra patch that came out right now is because of that, and it's just a tradition that we're following up. I think we're not gonna. Well, I hope that we're not gonna have a patch until 5 6 months later, like people only talked out, because I want teams to figure things out. People are QQing about Sven, but they haven't thought about how to figure out playing against Sven. People are QQing about Undying because they haven't tried enough things against Undying. So I'm saying this again. I'm wearing my monocle and smoking my big cigar. I'm speaking as if I'm playing the highest level of games. But honestly, I think still in the pro scene, Dota's lacking some creativity. So I'm hoping that we're not going to have more patches, and it forces the scene to react, to be creative.
Yep, so break out your pub glasses because you're going to be seeing a lot more Hell of the Dominator Necro 3 Dooms. And, you know,
I didn't say Helm of Dominator. I just said Necro 3 too.
yeah. No, I like this patch overall. It's not too drastic, but add some significant nerfs on the hero needed most mag, and Drow and Cent. And hopefully this patch will remain in effect for another 5 to 6 months, maybe like even longer. But overall, I'm satisfied on how his Dota is looking. The Chinese playing a bit aggressive, European teams playing pretty passively, a complete role reversal. So hopefully this will encourage even more aggression by the European teams, now that Mag isn't really as good, Sven isn't really as good. And hopefully we'll get more exciting Dota in the near future.
Yep. Thanks for having me for this patch talk
Thank you very
analysis.
much, Luminous Inverse. Follow him and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch. BBon773. Thanks for watching, guys, and leave us feedback in the comments below. And we'll see you for the next patch, guys. So, thanks for watching, and peace out.
You're supposed